in for a little bit of a lecture this morning. We will take you back in history if you're ready to go. My name is Ted Tanner, or Theodore Robert Tanner, and I grew up in Portland, Oregon. And this group and your presence here reminds me of my high school. The only problem is I had none of the beautiful females. My high school was all boys. In Portland at that time, if you had good grades in your 8th grade, 1 to 8, you were eligible to go to this high school of all boys. It was a public school. Anybody that was there was getting a 4-year education and eligible to go on to college if you so chose. Now, if you wanted to and didn't want to go to college, we had 3 years of giving you a vocation. We had a machine shop. We had a foundry. We could pour iron. We could make things. We had an electric shop. We had a radio station that went all over the city. We had all kinds of industrial arts. You could use one today that way. Not all of you might, even though you'd love to go to college, you also might want to become some sort of an apprentice, such as carpentry or electric. Anyway, that was where I went to college to high school, and I grew up in Portland and went to school there, and I graduated at 4 years in 1940. 1941, December 7th came along, and my world, my everything turned upside down. The Depression was on. My family was moving from one house to another, $20-some a month, rented old houses. My mother was a graduate early female dentist. I grew up in a dental house. I can remember my mother having her home at that time, a big front bay window with a dental chair in it, and people coming to our house to get dental work. Now, mind you, at that time, times were tough enough that the barter system came along. She would actually do dental work for you and trade for a dozen eggs, some potatoes, whatever. Money was not easy. If you can remember, or even look up, the Wall Street had a big fiasco, and people that were buying things on the margins bet wrong, and Wall Street failed, and rich people suddenly were broke. No money. Banks locked their doors, wouldn't even open up if you had a savings account. So consequently, I can remember very vividly how times were tough and how hard it was to get a quarter. 10 cents would buy me a 2-feature major motion picture in a downtown gorgeous theater with a live stage show for a dime. Gasoline, 4 and 5 cents a gallon. Bread, a nickel. Milk, a nickel. Kind of hard to think of that today when you guys will think about, hell, dropping $1 was nothing today. Last night I had a birthday for a granddaughter, and heck, they think nothing of $5 for the tip to the guy that parked your car. I never thought of that. It tells you how times have changed. December 7th comes along, rationing comes along, meaning you could only get so many tires and so many pounds of beef or whatever you were allowed. The cars had to have their lights taped off and you'd have to drive almost dark, little slits. The country was so scared that every time an airplane flew over, the anti-aircraft guns went off. And even flying was so dangerous that they blacked out the whole West Coast. Terrible worry about the fact that maybe the Japanese were going to land. Yuck. The draft came along and I had to decide what the heck was I going to do. I had never even ridden in an airplane, never sat in one. There wasn't any such thing in my time of going and getting on an airliner to go from Portland to Seattle or LA or wherever. It didn't happen. Didn't have the money. Anyway, I've got to decide what I'm going to do in lieu of the draft. Anybody ideas how the draft worked? Washington had a great big tub and they put a bunch of numbers in it. And they assigned each male eligible to fight. In that, you were given a number, and if your number was drawn out of this bucket in Washington, you immediately had to go get in the service or wait and find out what they were going to do with you and put you in the infantry, marching, carrying a gun. Some of us didn't even have guns. They were giving them sticks to practice with. That's how times were rough. Anyway, I decided, and all my friends, male friends, that we would go and get into the service. Even though I hadn't been in an airplane, I decided that my hot rod days had given me a heck of a background for machinery and flying. I went to the Navy and they laughed. I didn't have any college. Okay. Finally, the Air Force decided that they were going to need people. So, take a test with us. If you pass, we'll give you the equivalency of 2 years of college. My high school was good. Thank you. I managed with no problem to get their equivalency and was accepted as an aviation cadet for the United States Air Force. At that time, we were actually a part of the Army. We weren't separated. So we wore the same uniform as an ordinary walking soldier at that time. I went home, wondered what to do with myself, waiting for orders. I'm already officially an aviation cadet, so now I'm not going to be pulled in inadvertently to carry a gun. When am I going to get called? Where am I going to be stationed? What am I going to do? Well, 9 months went by, no orders. I thought, gee, I've been dropped. They don't even know I exist. I realized after I looked backwards, our country was not ready for World War II. We had no airplanes. We had no training. We had no instructors for flying. So that's why I didn't get called. Well, here I am in Portland. I went to work because of my background in machinery and my hot rodding. I got a job with the shipyards, building Liberty ships on the river at Portland. Hey, that's a step up, and it's pretty good pay. Not bad, waiting for the service to call. I was pretty good at it. I got a job as a welder burner. I could steady eye and steady hands, could burn a straight line as good as anybody aboard. Finally, the orders came through. Oh, good, I'm going to go to Southern California and dance with the girls in the Hollywood Canteen. Tennessee was where I was sent. Boy, I wasn't ready for the segregated South. Sit in the back of the bus if you're black. Go to a separate dining. Go to a different bathroom. Can you even imagine that now? Can you even think that it happened in our country? Yeah, I wanted to get involved, and yet I wanted to not fail flying school. So I kept my nose clean, stayed in, didn't go to town much, didn't want any trouble. Glad to be involved in learning. I always was a student, loved to learn, and was pretty good at it. I kept asking for single engine training, meaning a single engine meant that you were going to be in a small airplane, you were going to be by yourself. If you went into bombers, it obviously meant you were going to wind up with a big crew and a co-pilot and a navigator and all. By being in a single engine, you wound up flying a small airplane, usually a fighter, and the only thing we had at that time was a P-40, which was a